911. What's your emergency? The voice on the line was calm and trained, but nothing could have prepared her for what came next. I think my mommy and daddy are broken, whispered a tiny trembling voice. I tried the band-aids, but there's still so much red. The dispatcher's hand hovered over the emergency protocol sheet. Sweetheart, what's your name? Where are you calling from? Olivia Mitchell, Maple Street, number. I don't know the number, but my dog's name is Lucky. He's barking a lot. The dispatcher didn't waste another second. Within moments, every available officer was rerouted. The snowstorm had nearly shut down the small town of Maplewood, Missouri, but now, it was a race against time. Maplewood was a kind of town where crime was an unwelcome guest, where neighbors smiled on sidewalks and kids played freely in leaf-strewn yards. Thanksgiving weekend had blanketed the area in a white, silencing layer of peace until that call shattered the illusion. Officer Catherine Reynolds, a 15-year veteran, was the first to arrive. She would never forget the sight. A little girl stood at the door, her pink unicorn pajamas soaked in blood up to the elbows, holding an infant with shaking arms. I tried to wake them up, but they won't get up. Catherine's gut twisted. She scooped the children into her arms and called for backup, her voice tighter than ever before. Inside, nothing could have prepared her for the nightmare. The dining table was still set, candles half burned, a turkey sat untouched. Blood streaked the floor from the hallway to the living room where the bodies of Nathan and Rebecca Mitchell, beloved members of the community, lay still. But it wasn't just the crime that stunned Catherine, it was what she saw next that made her question everything she knew about trauma, survival, and the courage of a child. Olivia had drawn something, in the blood, on the tile floor. A heart, and inside the heart, 3 stick figures holding hands. Nathan Mitchell was Maplewood's favorite school principal, known for remembering every child's name and coaching Little League. His warmth and kindness were legendary. Rebecca, his wife, was a pediatric trauma nurse at the county hospital, equally beloved for her gentle strength and her laugh that lifted rooms. To lose them was to shake the soul of the town. But who could have done this? Why, and how did this little girl manage to protect her baby sister in the middle of such horror? Back at the police station, Catherine listened to Olivia speak through trembling lips, her stuffed rabbit clutched in her arms. Mommy said, if the sky is falling, go hide behind the rainbow. So I did. It was a code, a safety game Rebecca had made up, never thinking it would one day save her daughters' lives. Olivia had hidden in a secret alcove in her closet, clutching baby Ella, and stayed silent as chaos unfolded downstairs. Only when it was quiet did she emerge, call 911, and try to stop the bleeding the only way a 5-year-old could. Band-aids. Catherine knew instantly this child wasn't just a victim, she was a hero, and as the investigation unfolded, would uncover a series of shocking truths, bared grudges, and hidden betrayals, starting with one name that sent a chill down Catherine's spine. William Mitchell, Nathan's older brother, discharged war veteran, missing 4 weeks. He had a history, and now, he had vanished. But Olivia remembered something chilling. There was a lady with him. She smiled at me, but it wasn't a happy smile. Who was the mysterious woman, and why had they come on Thanksgiving? This story would go on to shake Maplewood to its core and restore it in a way no one saw coming. Because from the ashes of tragedy would rise the resilience of a child, the healing of a broken officer, and the rediscovery of what truly binds a family together, not just blood, but love. Olivia Mitchell sat on the hospital bed with her legs dangling off the edge, her unicorn pajamas still stained, though someone had gently tried to clean them. A warm blanket wrapped around her small shoulders, but her eyes were distant, too old for 5 years. Too quiet for someone who used to sing along to every cartoon theme. Detective Catherine Reynolds watched her from behind the glass window. Olivia hadn't spoken a word since that night. Not even to baby Ella, who lay in the nursery down the hall, safe and sleeping. The silence echoed louder than the sirens had the night it all happened. Catherine knew trauma. She knew how children shut down, how their minds tried to keep them safe by building invisible walls. But Olivia had seen everything. And buried somewhere behind those wide, tearless eyes was the truth. Catherine stepped into the room slowly, crouching to meet Olivia's gaze. She didn't wear her badge today. No uniform, just a navy blue sweater and soft jeans. Hey princess, she said, using the same word Olivia's father once had in a home filled with warmth. I brought you something. She opened her hand to reveal a charm bracelet, one Rebecca Mitchell had worn often, a string of tiny silver hearts and stars. Olivia's eyes flickered for the first time. Mommy wore that when we baked cookies, she whispered. Yes, Catherine replied softly. Your mommy was very brave. Silence. Then Olivia looked up. The rainbow came back. That's why I came out. The monster was gone. Catherine's breath caught. Do you remember what the monster looked like, sweetheart? Olivia shook her head. He yelled a lot, and there was a lady with him. She smelled like mommy's medicine, but her eyes were sad. Sad and angry. That was new. Until now, no one had mentioned a second person inside the house besides William. Catherine stood slowly, mind racing. She stepped out and immediately dialed Officer Jennings. Double-checked the call logs. I want to know if there was any vehicle sighting near Maple Street. Look for 2 sets of prints in the snow, and find out if Dr. Allison Carter was on shift that night. The preschool volunteer, Jennings asked, surprised. She's more than that, Catherine said quietly, and Olivia just remembered she was there. Outside, the snow had stopped, but inside the station, things were beginning to unravel. 3 miles from Maplewood, in a rented room above an old convenience store, a woman stared into the mirror. Her lipstick trembled as she tried to steady her hands. In her coat pocket, she still carried a photograph, a Thanksgiving picture of the Mitchell family. She had taken it herself when they weren't looking. Allison Carter hadn't meant for it to go this far. When William called her weeks earlier, she thought it would be a simple reunion. He told her about his family, about the brother who had it all, and how he wanted to make peace. She believed him. Or maybe she wanted to believe him, because people like her didn't get fairy tale endings. But they hoped it wasn't supposed to end in screaming, or silence. She gripped the edge of the sink and pressed her forehead to the cool mirror. What have I done? In Maplewood, word of the tragedy spread like wildfire. The Mitchell family had been the town's heart now. That heart had been wounded. Candlelight vigils sprang up overnight. Flowers and teddy bears crowded the front porch of the once joyful home. And yet, there was one question no one could answer. Why? Why would William sing unstable? Yes, but still family do this. Why on Thanksgiving? Why now? The truth was, William had once loved his brother deeply, but years of pain, untreated trauma, and jealousy had buried that love beneath layers of resentment. What no one had seen, what Nathan himself hadn't realized, was how deeply William had been unraveling, and someone had encouraged it. Someone with her own wounds. Someone who smiled sadly at Olivia and didn't stop what was happening. But Olivia remembered more. Later that night, Catherine brought her a notebook. Can you draw for me? Anything you remember? Olivia nodded. An hour passed in silence. Then she handed the paper to Catherine. It showed a tall man with a beard, William, and next to him, a woman in a long coat, holding something in her hand. What is this? Catherine asked gently. Olivia looked at her and whispered. She had Mommy's papers. What papers? She was mad that Mommy found out. About the papers and the phone calls. Mommy said the rainbow would keep us safe. Catherine stared at the drawing. This wasn't just an emotional crime. It was planned, and it had something to do with a secret Rebecca had uncovered just days before. The rainbow had returned. But the storm wasn't over yet, not by a long shot. As Catherine stood by Olivia's side, one thought echoed in her mind. If we don't find Allison Carter soon, more hearts may break. Because this wasn't just about family. It was about betrayal, and a child who had survived the unthinkable. Now holding the key to uncovering it all, snow still blanketed Maplewood like a quiet secret, disguising the storm that had torn through its heart. A town that once never locked its doors was now checking bolts twice and peeking through curtains at dusk. But inside the police station, there was no time for fear. Detective Catherine Reynolds stood over a growing wall of evidence. Strings connecting names, faces, and questions with no clear answers. She wasn't just solving a case now, she was protecting what was left of a broken family. Across town, Olivia Mitchell held her sister's bottle in one hand and a crayon in the other. She'd been moved to temporary foster care, but no matter how warm the sheets or kind the strangers, nothing felt like home. Every night, Olivia drew pictures of rainbows, because her mother had promised the rainbow would mean safety. But she also began drawing the lady with sad eyes and a shaking hand, the one who smelled like bandages. Olivia didn't know her name, but she remembered her voice, calm, soft, like the storytime reader at preschool. Only now she understood. Those stories weren't always safe. Catherine's instincts hummed. Something about Allison Carter didn't fit at. Everything pointed to her. The medical volunteer who always lingered at school events, who took a special interest in Olivia, who, according to the preschool director, once asked for a parent contact sheet for emergency records. But Allison had no child at the school. She had no children at all. Run her financials, Catherine told Officer Jennings. Medical licenses, employment records, anything recent. Jennings blinked. She's not a suspect. She's not, Catherine replied. She's the piece of the puzzle we've been overlooking. And then the phone rang. It was a social worker at Olivia's temporary home. Olivia asked for her mommy's rainbow box. The voice said gently. Catherine's breath stilled. The what? She said her mommy hid it behind the closet wall. That it was for when the sky fell. Catherine didn't hesitate. Within 20 minutes, she was back inside the Mitchell home. The warmth, long gone, replaced by caution tape and quiet echoes of what used to be. She entered Olivia's bedroom. Stepping lightly across the floor, the sound of baby laughter from old videos still playing in her mind. Behind the closet, tucked where the insulation had been pulled away, was a small wooden box painted with rainbows and clouds. Inside it, a flash drive, a letter addressed to Catherine, and a second letter labeled, "In case something happens to me, give this to the girls." Catherine unfolded the first. Catherine, if you're reading this, I didn't imagine the danger. I just didn't know how far he'd go. William isn't well, but he isn't acting alone. Someone is feeding his fear. Someone is making him believe I'm the enemy. I've seen the calls, the bank transfers, the messages hidden in therapy, sessions with someone who isn't licensed to practice medicine anymore. Her name is Allison Carter. I don't know why she's doing this, but she's too close to Olivia. And if anything happens, please don't stop digging. My girls deserve a safe life, even if I can't give it to them. Rebecca Catherine sat down on Olivia's bed, the truth crashing over her like a wave. It was worse than she thought. Allison hadn't just been there. She'd been planning this, manipulating William, perhaps even feeding his paranoia about his brother. This wasn't a simple case of mental illness or a family breakdown. This was orchestrated. She opened the flash drive on her laptop. Rebecca had compiled emails, voice memos, and call recordings. One stood out, a voicemail left just days before her death. You said it would be over quickly. Rebecca's voice trembled. You said he just needed closure. But now he's talking about taking the girls. I can't let that happen. I won't. If you come near them again, I swear. The message cut off. Catherine exhaled slowly. This was the beginning of a conspiracy rooted in jealousy, secrets, and something far more personal. Now she needed to find Allison. Fast. But what Catherine didn't know, what no one yet realized, was that Allison wasn't in hiding. She was watching. From a small rental just outside town, Allison Carter sat in the dark, staring at her phone. She had just read an article about Olivia's bravery and Catherine Reynolds' investigation. She knew the walls were closing in, but Allison had one more secret left. A secret about Rebecca Mitchell that no one had uncovered. One that could flip the entire case upside down. Because what if Allison wasn't the only one who had something to hide? What if Rebecca's perfect life wasn't so perfect after all? And what if Olivia's memory, still unfolding, was about to unlock a truth no one in Maplewood was prepared to face? The next move belonged to Olivia. And she was finally ready to remember everything. The snow began to melt by the fourth day, but the chill in Maplewood only deepened. But Olivia sat by the window of her foster home, her tiny fingers tracing foggy patterns on the glass. Baby Ella gurgled beside her in a borrowed crib, unaware of the storm still circling around them. But Olivia was beginning to remember more, not just the scary noises or the monster's face, but the strange things her mommy whispered when no one else was around. That morning, she drew another picture, not of rainbows this time, but of a house, her house, and next to it, a woman with glasses. Not mommy, not the nice social worker, but someone else. Who's this? The therapist asked gently, crouching beside her during their scheduled session. She's the sad one. She gave me gummy bears, Olivia said simply, coloring in the glasses. She said I was special, like her. Catherine Reynolds arrived 20 minutes later. The drawing, now in a protective folder, was placed in front of her. You're certain she's describing Allison Carter? She asked the therapist. She remembers her smell, lavender and alcohol. That's what Rebecca's hospital used in their trauma unit. Catherine didn't need more. She'd spent her career chasing shadows and half-truths, but this felt different. Olivia wasn't guessing. She was piecing together a puzzle only a child's mind could hold without judgment, and somewhere in that picture was the truth. Meanwhile, in a storage unit 15 miles outside town, Allison Carter stood hunched over a metal trunk. Inside were dozens of folders, labeled and dated. One read, Mitchell case, pre-2009. Another, Eva M., terminated. She pulled out a manila envelope marked RM final notes. Inside were photographs. Old ones, Rebecca Mitchell, but not with Nathan. These photos were from years before. Hospital settings, a child, a therapist, and in every photo Rebecca's eyes seemed guarded, as if holding on to something too painful to speak aloud. Allison's hands trembled. They had shared something once. A past no one in Maplewood knew, not even Nathan, not even William. And that past had a name. Eva. Allison whispered the name like a ghost. You left her, she said aloud, though no one was there. You promised we'd raise her together. Then, you vanished, reinvented yourself, and I waited. Allison's voice cracked. She was ours. And you walked away. Back in Maplewood, Catherine was uncovering similar truths. An old employment record, buried deep in hospital archives, revealed a startling fact. Rebecca Mitchell had worked under a different name before moving to Maplewood. Her license had been temporarily suspended due to undisclosed mental health complications following a traumatic family incident. Catherine followed the paper trail like a thread, unraveling a tapestry. Rebecca's past wasn't spotless, and it had collided with Allison's in ways no one had foreseen. Suddenly, the motive wasn't just obsession, it was betrayal and revenge. Later that evening, while rocking Ella to sleep, Olivia whispered to her baby sister, Mommy had a secret, but I know it now. The rainbow box told me. At that same moment, Catherine received an anonymous tip. A storage facility, Unit 32B, paid in cash, rented under the name Carla Emma, known alias of Allison Carter. Within the hour, she stood in the dim unit, flashlight in hand, the truth staring back at her from piles of documented pain. Among the files was a birth certificate. Eva Marie Carter, born 2008, mother Allison Carter, co-signed Rebecca Mitchell. Catherine froze. Rebecca and Allison had once raised a child together. Then what happened to Eva? Before she could dig further, her phone buzzed. It was Olivia's foster mother. Breathless, "She's not here." Catherine's heart dropped. "What do you mean?" She was just coloring, and then gone. The back door was open. Panic surged through Catherine. But it wasn't just fear, it was instinct. Olivia hadn't run. She'd remembered something that led her to the one place no one thought she'd return to. Back to the house, back to the rainbow box, back to the truth buried beneath Thanksgiving snow. Because Olivia wasn't running from danger, she was walking straight into it. And this time, she was ready to face the woman who called her special. The woman who whispered stories in the dark. The woman who had once held her hand, and might not let go again. The wind howled through the trees lining Maplewood's outer trail as the sun dipped below the horizon. Street lamps flickered on one by one, but no one noticed the small figure quietly slipping through the shadows. Near the edge of town, Olivia's boots crunched softly over the frozen grass as she walked with steady purpose, her hands clutched tightly around something she'd hidden beneath her sweater, the rainbow box. It had taken her hours to find it again in the bushes behind the neighbor's fence, where she'd hidden it before the police came. But now she understood why Mommy had told her to keep it safe. Inside the box were the secrets she couldn't explain, but somehow, she felt they held the key to everything. She wasn't afraid. Not now. Mommy had called her brave. And brave girls didn't run away. They followed the clues until they made everything right. At the same moment, Catherine's SUV screeched into the driveway of the old Mitchell home, now wrapped in crime, scene tape and darkness. The door was ajar. No signs of forced entry, but footprints in the light snow led straight inside. "Olivia," Catherine whispered, heart thudding in her chest. Inside, the air was cold. Still, like the house had been holding its breath since the tragedy. Catherine moved carefully through the rooms, flashlight sweeping over furniture covered in white sheets, photos still hanging crooked on the walls. Then, she heard it, a creak upstairs, a small voice humming, a lullaby. Her hand went instinctively to her holster, though she hoped she wouldn't need it. She climbed the staircase one slow step at a time, the melody growing clearer. It was Twinkle, Twinkle, off-key, but familiar. She followed the sound to Olivia's bedroom. The closet door was slightly open. Catherine reached for it, slowly pulling it back. There sat Olivia, cradling the rainbow box in her lap, the soft glow of her flashlight casting shadows. Across her face, she looked up calmly, as if she had been waiting. "You came," she said simply. Catherine knelt. "Sweetheart, are you okay? Everyone's looking for you." "I had to come," Olivia whispered. "Mommy said if something bad happened, the rainbow would help me remember." She opened the box, revealing its contents. Colored drawings, scraps of paper, a small voice recorder. Catherine picked it up gently, clicking it on dot at first. Static. Then Rebecca's voice. "If you're hearing this, and I couldn't protect you, I'm sorry." Catherine's breath caught. "I never meant to hurt anyone. But if Allison found Yusuf, she came back, it means I was right to run." Olivia stared at the floor, her voice barely a whisper. She said Mommy was her friend, but Mommy was scared. More static. Then another voice on the tape, older, cold. "All those promises, Rebecca, you can't take her from me. She's mine too." Catherine's stomach sank out. The recorder crackled again, ending abruptly. That was enough. She pulled Olivia into her arms. "You did so good, Olivia. So good. But we need to go now." "Okay." Downstairs, Catherine's phone buzzed. An alert. Subject cited, Allison Carter, near Maplewood Trailhead. Traveling alone on foot, possibly armed. But she wasn't alone for long. As Catherine buckled Olivia into the back of her vehicle, a quiet realization washed over her. This story. It wasn't just about one terrible night. It was about a promise that was never kept. A child who never got to grow up in the light. And a woman who couldn't let go of what might have been. But now, someone had to stop the cycle. Back at the station, an urgent meeting unfolded. The recovered documents from the storage unit revealed everything: court records, concealed guardianship, papers, hospital discharge forms. Allison and Rebecca had once co-parented a child, Eva Marie, but after a mysterious incident in 2009, the arrangement had ended without warning. Rebecca had disappeared, changed her name, started a new life, and Eva, gone. No trace. No death certificate. No adoption. No one ever reported her missing. Catherine's fingers tapped the table. What if Rebecca changed her name because Eva didn't disappear? What if she took her? The room went silent. Then, "Who's Olivia?" one officer asked slowly. Catherine looked toward the evidence board. 1,000 thoughts colliding. She's not just Olivia Mitchell. She picked up the birth certificate again. The dates matched. The hospital. Catherine exhaled. She's Eva Marie, the child Allison had been searching for. The child Rebecca had raised as her own. The child caught in the crossfire of two broken hearts. And now, one of them was coming to get her back. No matter what it cost. The wind sliced across the Maplewood trailhead like a warning, cold, sharp, and unrelenting. Officer Catherine Reynolds stood just beyond the tree line, her hand resting on the handle of her holstered sidearm, eyes trained on the narrow path winding through the woods. Every instinct in her body told her it was about to happen, and this time, she couldn't afford to be too late. Somewhere out there in the thinning woods, Allison Carter was walking toward the girl she'd once claimed as her own, but this wasn't a simple custody dispute. This was a powder keg of grief, obsession, and secrets that had simmered for over a decade, and now, all of it was about to detonate. In the back seat of the cruiser, Oliviano, Eva Marie, as the records now clutching her rainbow box like a life raft. She stared out the window, her breath fogging the glass, her eyes fixed on the forest beyond. Somewhere deep in her heart, she knew something big was coming, but the quiet strength she'd inherited from Rebecca held her steady. Catherine tapped her earpiece. Team Bravo, status, cameras set up. She's half a mile out and moving slowly, no weapons visible, alone. She won't be for long, Catherine muttered. She's not just coming for answers, she's coming to rewrite a story that already ended. And then, a crackle of static. She stopped, just staring into the trees. Wait, she's speaking. Catherine stepped forward, eyes narrowing. Put her on speaker. A tinny voice emerged through the coms. I know you're listening, Allison Carter said, her tone low and eerily calm. I just want to see her. I've waited too long. She was taken from me, stolen, rewritten, and I deserve something. Catherine whispered back, you had your chance. The next steps unfolded slowly. Carefully, Catherine stepped from the shadows and approached the woman now, frozen beneath the dim moonlight. Allison looked older than in the school, records her eyes hollow, her frame thinner than remembered. But her presence, even in the dark, was unmistakable. You knew, Allison whispered. You knew the moment you heard the tape. I knew you were broken, Catherine replied, but I didn't know you'd come this far. She is my daughter. Rebecca lied to everyone, took her, hid her, changed her name. You think that's okay? Catherine's voice didn't waver. Rebecca may have run, but she didn't hurt her. Olivia V is safe, happy, and deeply loved. Can you honestly say you ever gave her that? Allison's lip trembled. I was grieving. I lost everything. I didn't know how to be. She wasn't taken to punish you, Catherine said softly. She was taken to protect her. You were unraveling, and Rebecca was afraid, not just for herself, but for the child. Silence stretched between them, and then a sound. From behind the trees, small footsteps. Crunching through the leaves, Catherine spun around, heart-stopping. It was Olivia. She had gotten out of the car. Before anyone could react, Olivia walked slowly toward the woman she had only seen in old photos, heard about in hushed conversations, and never truly known. She held the rainbow box out in front of her like an offering. This was my niece, she said simply. She said it would help me remember. But I don't think I want to remember anymore. I just want everything to stop hurting. Allison's eyes filled with tears as she dropped to her knees. Eva, my name is Olivia, the little girl said gently. But if you knew me back then, I think maybe I remember your hugs. Allison's hand reached forward, shaking. Catherine stepped in. No closer. The moment hung there fragile as spun glass. And then Olivia did something no one expected. She stepped forward and hugged Allison. Just once. A brief, trembling hug. Then she turned and walked back to Catherine, without another word. Allison didn't chase her. She didn't scream. She just sat there in the dirt and cried. In the weeks that followed, Maplewood slowly exhaled the breath it had been holding. Allison was taken into custody, not for violence, but for the years of deception that unraveled afterward. Charges related to falsified records, identity manipulation, and unregistered custodial claims filled the reports, but ultimately, the courts made a decision that was bigger than law. They let Olivia choose. With counseling, guidance, and time. The little girl who had once whispered into a phone with blood on her hands chose the home that gave her warmth. She stayed in Maplewood, raised by Nathan's sister, a loving aunt who became the rock she needed. Catherine remained a constant in her life. More than just a protector, she became a friend, a quiet mentor. And Olivia, she grew strong. She spoke at her school years later, sharing her story. Not of horror, but of hope. How sometimes the people who break you don't mean to, and the people who save you might not wear capes, they might wear uniforms, carry flashlights, or just listen when you're brave enough to speak. And in her backpack, always, was the rainbow box, a reminder of the love that started her story, and the strength that rewrote its ending.